ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Cult Coffee and Conversation. My name is Carl.
And I'm Holly.
And we'd like to welcome you back to another fantastic episode as we take the journey down to the Wild, Wild Country. That's right, Wild, Wild Country. We are now talking about episode 5. If you have not watched it, we recommend that you watch it. So you can just pretty much catch up with the rest of us. Anyway, time to do the disclaimer. We're just normal, regular people. We don't hold any special degrees in religion or anything like that. This is our own personal opinion, and it's for entertainment purposes. Alrighty, so let's get into it. First, I am drinking a delicious espresso roast coffee. Bold. Amazing. Let me guess. What are you drinking?
I am drinking Corducio. Yum.
Sense a pattern. Alrighty, so there we go. Okay, we've done the coffee. It's time to start the conversation.
Yes, let's get started.
About the cults. Alright, here we go. Episode 5. Where the Empress Strikes Back. That's right, we're talking about Sheila. Now, Sheila is gone. Now, this is 1985. Of course, now she's in Germany. Now, it says right here in the first quote coming up, it's got Miss Shanti B. She mentions that they're happy about being in Germany. You know, you see them sitting down at the table in their place that they're staying at. And, of course, the ranch calls. And it spoke with each person individually, and that's when it really hit that the Bhagwan was sending the dogs after us, as she says in the quote. And he was clear that he was out to destroy Sheila. Whether you love Sheila or hated her, she did her job well, and she did it for him.
That scene with all of them so happy, they were even happy that they were there. Yes.
They're jovial.
And the pressure was off.
Yeah.
As soon as they got that call, it was all
everything.
brought it down to, oh boy, you know.
The reality hit.
The reality did hit. There was a TV interview.
Yes.
And Sheila, and there was several questions. And one of the questions to Sheila was, are you ever going to wear the red robe again? And that red robe was really pretty, and it had one of the symbols on it, and it's more of a capey robe thing.
Yeah, the symbol of the Rajneeshpuram, yes.
Yes. And she said the Bhagwan was upset because she was the only one who ever confronted him.
Yes, that is correct.
And her confrontation was broadcast back to him, and they had this where they showed him listening to what she had said.
Yeah, the picture set up is where he's sitting in his big old huge throny chair, and then there's the guy who was actually interviewing her back where she was at in
Germany. Yes.
Yeah, so he was sitting down in front of the Bhagwan in his throny chair, and next to the Bhagwan's left, to the reporter's right, was the television of the recording of Sheila, and Sheila said what?
She said, on one hand, you're a genius and a beautiful man. On the other, you exploit people by using their human frailty and emotion. So he was very angry about that. Sheila admitted that she oversaw part of a con.
Yeah, it was a big con.
Okay. She admitted that the Bhagwan was not interested in enlightenment, laughed at the accusations of poisoning the doctor.
Yeah, where he's like, oh, because the interviewer was saying, you know, that he was asking her all these questions. Well, this is what he's saying. And he's like, oh, he mentioned that you had one of your cohorts poison the doctor, and she just started laughing.
She laughed. She said, well, did she do a good job?
Did she do a good job?
The doctor's still alive.
So they go, I guess she didn't. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
and
yeah.
so in turn, the Bhagwan starts attacking verbally her back.
Yeah, he starts lashing back. And, of course, in his wonderful way of speaking English, is that she's on drugs, very hard drugs, and that she was jealous, and she always wanted me. So he's kind of playing on her emotions, which probably all of this is true.
I would imagine it was true.
Yeah, and then he said this, which really got the stew stirring, as they say. A love affair never never ends. It can turn into a hate affair.
Yes.
Yeah, she didn't prove to be a perfect woman. She proved to be the perfect bitch. And then, of course, you hear the fake laughs in the background. Yeah, very annoying. He also continued saying that she's going more and more insane before she goes to jail. Either she will kill herself of the burden of the crimes, or she will suffer the whole life in prison. So his English is really choppy.
Yeah, it's almost impossible sometimes to, as we know, as we talked about different words, I thought it was one thing, and you actually showed me it was another word.
Thank you, subtitles.
Yes. Sheila, she felt that the Bhagwan was broken. He pained as I pained when leaving him.
Yeah.
And that's why he lashed out. He said a love affair can become a hate affair.
Yeah. And that was a perfect example of it.
Yes. She said, I know.
Too much.
Yes. She said, I know too much. My family is fearful today of what the Bhagwan sannyasins will do today. Even today.
Yeah, even today she's fearful for her life. Well, her family feels that she's fearful for her life.
I don't think she is.
Oh, please, no. Mm-mm. That woman ain't afraid of...
That's right. She's not afraid of the guillotine, is she?
No, the guillotine. Yes. So, of course, then you have Mashanti B. comes back. She was mentioning that it brought us together, the struggle. I was following Sheila's lead. I became absolutely devoted to her, and she became my substitute master. So Sheila ended up, the word...
She became, actually, for all the people that left, there were 21 people in the Pension in Germany. They were all living there.
That was 25. 25?
She said 21. Maybe a few of them left,
Okay, it's possible,
in between.
Because I know 25 left with her.
Okay, but I don't know if they all managed to stay together. But
good point. Yeah,
they
you're
were
right.
there. Because Katie, they thought, well, that's jumping ahead.
Yeah.
But anyway, Sheila said Bhagwan's words were making her back stronger for her and her people. But, as Carl mentioned to me, she was still wearing her necklace or her mala.
Yeah, her mala. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that had the picture of the Bhagwan on it.
Yeah, it did. It does. So then it comes back at the ranch, back in Oregon. There's Sunny. Sunshine. When they were talking about when Sheila left, it was like a bomb went off, right? The questions were in the community was who was staying, who was going. Is the Bhagwan staying or going? What was the future of their movement? The depth of sorrow became of the fact that they went the way they did. Like, what was their mentality?
Sheila's crew, how could have they gone so wrong being next to the Bhagwan? This is Sunny saying.
Yeah, this is Sunny taking, like, she was just...
She couldn't believe that...
verklempt.
Yeah, she couldn't believe that anybody so close to the Bhagwan could go so wrong.
Yeah, because she's still kind of outside the inner circle.
Yeah, she was outside the inner circle.
Yeah, of course, then Swami shows up, and the overall reaction was relief, he said, that Sheila was gone. So he ended up calling her a power-mad megalomaniac. So he didn't have really much to say as far as more of relief feeling than sadness or shock. Kind of shocked, but not as much as Sunny. But then, fast forward a little bit. Hassia then has been chosen to be the personal secretary.
Okay, so Hassia was the producer, and her husband was the Hollywood producer for The Godfather.
Yeah.
And she was a much different person than Sheila. She was more soft-spoken. She looked like she was a more loving person.
Yeah, she had a softer tone of voice, softer look overall. It's basically a 180 of what Sheila was.
Right, and she was doing her best to diffuse the situation. Our arms are open to the Oregon people, palms up. Yeah. So she wanted to diffuse all of this, and I know back to some of the relief when Sheila and her crew left, the normal rank and file were talking to the press and saying, since they left, I feel like, I have a relief. I'm not so anxious about what I'm going to say. Maybe someone's going to come up to me and tell me I have to leave the ranch.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
Mm-hmm. Now, when Sheila left, she also took half of the city council as well as the mayor, who was KD.
Yeah, KD.
Mm-hmm. And Swami became the new mayor at Rajneeshpuram. That was that was Bhagwan's suggestion, and of course his reaction was, "Oh, good, more work
to do." Yeah, more work. That's what I need is more work to do, right?
But he did accept that nomination.
He did take the honor. Now it goes over to Mr. Weaver, who pops up into the next screen.
This Mr. Weaver is.
This Mr. Weaver is the
Attorney General.
Attorney General. He pops up and he says there's two huge mistakes he made. He
Meaning
being the Bhagwan.
Okay.
The Bhagwan broke his silence. That was the first one. And then the second one, then turning on Sheila in a very public way. Quote, there was not just growing carrots out in the fields. There was more into this. That which invited the FBI on the ranch because of all the allegations that the Bhagwan was bringing up at that time on television. When he kept talking and saying she did this, she did that.
When some of the accusations was she tried to murder.
She tried to murder. She tried to murder
the doctor.
The doctor. Also,
the poisoning.
The poisoning of the dolls. Also, the assassination attempts of.
It was the appointee. It was the Attorney General of the United States, I believe.
Yes. Yes,
because that was the one that Ronald Reagan appointed.
Ronald Reagan appointed, yes, correct. So he basically spilled the beans on everything, and with him more talking, raised up more questions, which gave the FBI the actual key to get in. That's
right, because all Bhagwan was thinking is, "Oh, I'm going to get Sheila. I'm going to get Sheila." He didn't even think about any of that, which. Also, we were kind of surprised that Swamy did not think ahead strategically at this point of what could have been
the what if factor.
Yeah, unless he wasn't able to influence. He wasn't able to influence.
He may not have been in that inner circle.
No, Bhagwan at all.
No, well, because it says right here, Swamy said that they cooperated with all of the law enforcement agencies that came. Turned over 10,000 tapes were turned over. They found the hidden tunnel underneath Jesus Grove, and also the bunker. They found that bunker, and then of course found all the recording equipment and the spy equipment. I don't know, the devices.
Yes.
All over, and they mentioned that if one person did it for 8 hours a day, going through all the tapes, it would have taken that person more than 2 years to go through it. So there's
and evidently they had every place on that ranch they had bugged.
Yeah, it was all bugged. It was all bugged.
And of course, we did know that she wiretapped inside Bhagwan's house.
Yeah, and he also brought that up too while talking about Sheila. So
yes.
So now the tapes did reveal the different assaults and battery and attempted murder. So that's when the sanctions were starting to brew.
Yeah, he was mentioning that's all they could even focus on. There was so many other probably smaller crimes.
Yeah.
But
they didn't care about all that.
No, they had to go to the assaults, the battery, and the attempted murder.
Yeah, and then of course, and that's where they talk about their built up of their arsenal.
Shanti B describes a mission that she was told by Sheila. She said, "I want you to fly down to Texas." Mm-hmm. And they flew down to Texas. She was with a few other people, and they drove around to each gun store.
Yeah.
They would purchase guns. Mm-hmm. Oh, and before that, they were told what to purchase, small weapons.
Yeah, small weapons.
There was some other expert that would tell them what to do. Mm-hmm. And so they would go, they'd buy these guns, and then as soon as they were in the car, they'd rip up the receipts laughing because... I don't know why they thought that would do anything.
Right.
Well,
because if they come in and pay cash.
Yeah, I bet that wouldn't fly today at all. This is back in the
80s,
early 80s.
Early 80s, yeah.
And in Texas.
Yeah.
And the reason they did it in Texas is probably they had the most liberal gun laws, too.
Oh, they do.
Okay. So they did that, and she placed the guns in a bag, and she took the Greyhound bus all the way back to Portland.
Yeah.
She was met at the station with someone else who took the guns, and she never saw that bag again.
Yeah, so it would just vanish.
Mm-hmm.
So then it goes back over to the FBI back on the ranch, and they're beginning to search the lake for weapons. Now, during their search for everything, they did uncover a weapon. That's when they found out the plot to kill Dave Frauenmeyer and Charles Turner.
Okay.
Now, David Frauenmeyer's daughter found a dead animal with newspapers and articles within it. So they're doing their best to harass him because find out is that they were spying and doing all these types of acts, I don't call it practical jokes or anything, but forms of harassment.
Yes,
forms
and
of harassment
in fact,
for months and months and months
well,
and months.
Shanti B was involved with this, as we spoke of
The episode
before,
prior.
that she was waiting in McDonald's.
Smoking for the first time.
Yes, and she was there waiting, and he didn't come out that time.
That's correct.
And that was part of another assassination plot.
That's correct. That is correct. So then, while they're doing the digging, they just so happen to go by the Drug Medical Corporation.
Okay, the Drug Medical Corporation. They had a full drug company there. They were the pharmacy.
Mm-hmm.
They also formulated drugs. I'm not sure, but they were experimenting.
Yes.
And this is where the salmonella comes in.
Part of it, yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Now, who's in charge of that?
Her name is Ma Anand Puja.
Mm-hmm.
And she was a nurse.
Okay,
but she was in charge of all the ordering and dispensing of the drugs. Now, this part was, interestingly enough, when they had a lot of trouble with the homeless people in Share a Home program.
Street people. They call them street people.
Oh, they did,
called street people.
Well, that was
fine,
those days, right?
Those days, they're called street people. Yeah.
And they remember they had issues with them, so the only way they could kind of mellow them out is they put a drug into the beer
that they were dispensing, and it was only to them.
Yes, and she was the one dispensing it. She didn't want any other sannyasin to drink that beer.
Right.
She used them as an internal tool to regulate people, and the poisoning of the doctor.
Yep, that was her.
Okay.
She's the one who gave me Shanti B the needle.
Okay, and the poisoning at the coffee that was given to Sonny. Now, did you want to talk about what happened to Sonny?
Basically, what happened was that no, I'll let you.
Okay, so Sonny was asked by the FBI, "Do you know of any time where you feel like you might have been poisoned?" And then she starts relaying a story about how she was given a cup of coffee. She drank the coffee, immediately had to go to the restroom. She was in there feeling terrible, and the doctor came, and he said, unlock the door, the ambulance is coming.
Yeah.
Okay, so they hauled her off. She barely remembers anything because she was going in and out. She was in a coma for 3 days, and then she wakes up. Well, the reason that she figured out was because one of the times when the Bhagwan was driving in his Rolls Royce and everybody was lined up, there was all these roses on the hood.
Yeah.
He rolled down, or she looked at him and said, "Do you want me to take the roses?" And he rolled down his window and said, "Sonny, I want you to take all the roses." And she didn't even know he knew her name.
Yeah, she only took... Yeah,
she took one
rose, yeah.
And then he rolled it down
Sonny,
and said,
"I want you to take all the roses."
And you see a clip where she's
taking
all the roses.
Yep.
And she's all happy. Everyone's happy. But obviously, Sheila either saw that on a film or she was in the car. I'm not sure with the Bhagwan at the time.
Yeah.
But that was because she saw that Sonny got some kind of attention
attention,
and she did not like it, so that's why she
Sonny called it was straight up woman jealousy or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what Swami pops up and he says that anyone who was given juice by Bhagwan, well, he says Osho, but Sheila targeted them, so they were a target. So people now during this time, they're still cooperating with the investigation, right, with the FBI. So they were given people were starting to speak after Bhagwan, of course, obviously gave their permission, because at one time you didn't talk to the press. It came about that a lot of the information that was coming out that they were giving the FBI wasn't about Bhagwan. It was all towards Sheila. Everything was towards Sheila. Now, during this time, that's where they found out that the Dow's poisoning came from the Rajneesh to affect the election, which we knew in a couple episodes prior, but this made it official. They actually was like, okay.
But they were blaming Sheila for that.
They were blaming Sheila for that, and they called it a dry run because it was just an attempt to see what would happen to it, and they would break it down that they were wearing long sleeves, and somehow they were able to some tubing or some sort of a dispensary part in the sleeves. They would go to all the salad bars, and they would just hover over it and just sprinkle it here, sprinkle it there, all that kind of stuff.
Boy, it really makes you kind of wonder about all of that salad bars. Boy, I'm going to be scarred for life for
A while.
a while because
there's a certain, buffet place I don't even like going, period, before this, so it's not going to improve my odds of going back. But then there was another story that came out about poisoning the water supply.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and this is where we call the beaver story, which I'll go ahead and get into it. Basically, what they were going to do is that they noticed that the beavers were, could carry the bacteria, blah, blah, blah. So what they do is they decide to infect beavers with the salmonella. And they were going to go to the water supply.
And they had open water supply at the time.
Water supply.
And they came down from Mount Hood.
Yeah.
And they were going to introduce the beavers into the water system.
So what happened was they noticed that, yes, it's an open one, but there's also grates.
Right, because I guess it's something that came and then they were going to...
Well, what they were going to do is just plop it in and just have them go ham on it.
But they couldn't get in.
They couldn't get in.
The beavers couldn't get in.
The beavers couldn't because of the grates. So they took the beavers and then they blended them up.
Yeah, they killed them, blended them up, and put the whatever was in that mixture into the water supply.
Into the water supply, yeah.
But that was never a verified story,
but
it was told to
one of the district attorneys by someone on the inside who was there that's saying that this is what they did.
Yeah, I don't think they wanted to even think about that.
Yeah, I don't think you want to bring that. Yeah, now it's safe, 30 plus years later that, okay, this is what happened. So anyway.
So now Jim Weaver was right all along. Now Jim Weaver was the congressman who stood up in an empty House of Representatives, and nobody was listening, but he wanted to get it on record via C-SPAN, all his supposition about this group, and it ended up, boom, it was.
He got flack from the locals, and the local people were going to thought he was just crazy.
And now he's a hero.
Dun, 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 dun.
He said he was even talking to Republican
Yeah, he got
committees.
A standing ovation from Republicans. So anyway, with all this going on, the INS now steps in, back to the immigration. Now the INS raises their eyebrows again for the Bhagwan. Now with Sheila leaving and the Bhagwan opening up to all the illegal activity, obviously is going to raise some interest, okay? Because if she's willing to do this, what about the rest of the stuff regarding his status? Mm-hmm. So when the word got out that the community was about litigation against other people inside the commune, because that was spreading out very easily, because there are some guilty parties in there, is that and everyone started to look out for number one, is what the quote was. People started to look out for number one. So then, of course...
so the Swami says...
the attention goes back to Swami.
Yeah, so Swami says that the Bhagwan didn't know about Sheila's illegal activities.
Don't believe it.
The Bhagwan thought it was a game. It's called a...
Garifin device.
Okay.
Device.
So now let's talk about this just for one moment. One, I want to say that I do not believe that Swami is right on this. I believe that the Bhagwan did. He orchestrated all of it.
He's got to, because for example, let's just go down this topic for just a second. Okay, let's say he didn't know. Let's believe that he didn't know. If he didn't know this was going on, but he sees what's going on, why is he not raising... Why is he still shutting up?
Well, because Swami could say, because...
Plausible deniability?
Yeah.
Plausible deniability, I guess. I mean...
So now, so we don't believe that he didn't know. We believe he orchestrated it. He used Sheila to fulfill his wishes, so then he could, blame her. But I want you to talk about this Gergefin device that they explained.
Now, the Gergefin device was about, there was a mystic called, I think his name was I can't really pronounce his name correctly, so I'm not even going to say. He's a Russian gentleman. He would put people in situations mentally to see what they're really truly made of. They would always test the will and the might of other people. And he went around all these places putting people in these type of situations.
And I don't think these people knew that those were situations that were created for their testing.
No. He did this for my opinion, and just my opinion. I think he did this for his pleasure because to me, he's very narcissistic and a sociopath. So it wouldn't shock me if he did do it on purpose.
So this device was something that the Bhagwan used.
Well, it's not like a physical device. It's
No.
more of a mental game.
It's a mental game. It's a game.
To him, it's a mental game.
And Swami was talking about how it was a mental game.
Because he was challenging the pressures to see what the U.S. was made of, or the United States was made of, what Sheila was made of, what the community was. Basically, it was a test of will, strength, and where are you truly in regards to this. So anyway, the Bhagwan, of course, begins this pro-American speech where he says that the U.S. is the hope of the world, but it must deprogram
from dirty politics.
Must be deprogrammed from dirty politics, fanatic religion, and the hypocrisy. Now, also, Bhagwan said that Sheila started the Rajneesh religion without her permission.
Without his permission?
Without his permission, which, okay. And so he decides to destroy everything.
Well, first off, I don't believe that Sheila decided to make this religion.
No, okay, and let's get back on that again. Okay, so here, without the religion that she quote-unquote created, he would not be in Oregon. He would not have all these Rolls Royces. He would not have all this connection. He would still be in India, doing his little thing in that little apartment from episode 1. We talked about his little tiny, not his tiny apartment, but his little place that he has, townhome.
Yes.
He'd still be there. So for him to say that she didn't have permission, but he had no problem reaping the benefits of it, I think that's just absolutely asinine. That's garbage.
Right. I believe that too. But he decided that, and we did say the reason we talked about his revision of his visa.
Yeah, okay.
At first it was a dissident.
And
then after a couple of years he had to get it changed and he wanted to be a religious worker.
Yeah, religious worker. Okay, so now since he wants to destroy this is where you're fueling the fire of the INS. Because now you want to break the whole thing down saying, well, I didn't start this religion, Sheila did. Well, dude, you're here for
religious
work. So
well, yeah, so there's suspicion is being raised.
Oh, absolutely.
So, but he, he's a very narcissistic person himself and he is not a very good strategist in this at this time. Okay, so
certain aspects of him, he is very intelligent, but on the other hand, he's also an idiot.
So the next thing that happens is he decides he's going to destroy the religion. And the first thing is Rajneeshis can now wear whatever they want.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. They were talking about how one of the girls is like, if I can get my hands on a turquoise sweater, I'd be the happiest woman alive. So this is where he says in the speech of deprogramming, this is what's going on.
Okay, so they're going to take away their red and orange clothes.
Done.
So now they're going to look like a normal people. They want to now reintegrate into society.
Yep.
And they're going to shed their malas, which is a necklace.
Necklace.
Can you describe the necklace?
Yes, I can. The necklace basically is about, I want to say, 18 inches overall, somewhere in that 18 to 21 inches long. Now, it's all beads, mostly beads. It looks like what monks wear. But at the end, instead of that little toggle that they have, it is a sphere, and it's got the Bhagwan's face on it.
Okay.
Hello.
They're saying no separation from one person to another. They're free of their conditioning. And this would
Sheila's conditioning.
Sheila's conditioning.
That's correct.
Okay. First time the whole history of mankind a religion has died. This is a quote from the Bhagwan.
From the Bhagwan himself.
Now, I'm not sure if that's true or not, but, he's
narcissistic, so it rolls with it.
He also mentioned that, the community decides, which from Bhagwan, they're going to burn Sheila's robes. Now, this is the red robe that she had been asked about before.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, she left it behind.
Yeah.
The books and the rites and prayers of the Rajneeshis burned.
Yeah, so the original, I guess from what I understand is that when you want to become a Rajneesh, there is a book, and it's the rites and prayers of the Rajneesh. That's what the title of the book is called.
Okay, and this is something that they would purchase.
Yes, they would purchase. Now it shows that, what is the secretary's name again? I just drew a blank right now.
Hasya?
Hasya. So there's Hasya. So you see there's Hasya. So you got a pile of books, and it's on a...
It's kind of like on a gurney, a stretcher.
Yeah, a stretcher.
So they have the pile of books. They have Sheila's red robe over it.
Yeah, what did she say, though? She said that this robe is when Sheila wanted to be the high priestess, right? So they put that on, and then she pulls out another robe, and it was just as nice, but a different style, saying this was her robe to popedom. And everyone's like, oh.
And this is Hasya saying
this. This is
this,
Hasya
right?
saying this. And then what do? The music starts playing, and then they start lighting up that crematorium.
Okay, so the other thing is there's a whole bunch of sannyasins around.
Yes.
They're like in a celebratory mood.
Yes, they are.
They're laughing. They're burning this whole gurney full of things.
Yes.
Okay, and so Sheila is interviewed about this, and she says it was like burning witches.
Yeah, that was her word, yeah.
Sheila says that it was his idea to start the religion, and I do believe that.
I believe it.
He needs an executive secretary to blame it on.
Well, exclusive secretary. Because I thought she said executive, but then thank God for the subtitles. The subtitles, it was...
okay, so he needed someone to blame it.
He needs someone to blame it on. So it was plausible deniability.
She also quoted saying, they aren't burning me, they are burning Bhagwan and themselves.
Yes.
It shows how deep his sorrow and anger was. He was ready to burn me.
Yeah.
But he didn't.
No, he didn't.
And she didn't take offense to burning any of that.
No, none at all. So now the global attention is starting to pick up on this. The feud between him and her. So they're going back and forth, not on a continual basis. There's
and
things
it's
saying
on
that there's
through the
money
press.
missing. It's all through the press. It's all through the international press. Because remember, she's in Germany. The press is taking this on because it is a juicy story. There's no two ways about it. This is some good just dirt that just, hey, we're talking about it, okay?
Yes.
And it works, okay? So, of course, he was saying that there was alleged money missing. Of course, there's dollar amounts, 45 million, 55 million, all that kind of stuff. But the thing is that when you take a look at where she has it in Germany, it says that, she's talking about how the group has to survive. They needed money. They had to make some money, because she was mentioning that, when she was with the Rajneesh, she could move mountains. She could build cities. But in the real world,
she wasn't able to do that.
So they had to find a way to...
She had to find
money.
And it's funny, back to the alleged millions that she took,
Mm-hmm.
if it were 55 million or 30 million or whatever it was, in those days, double it now, they wouldn't have had to look for money. Mm-mm. So I don't really believe... I'm sure she took some money. She had to. I'm not sure. But Stern Magazine, which is a very popular magazine in Germany,
Mm-hmm.
paid money for an interview with her.
Yep, it was an exclusive.
Exclusive story. So what they had to do was they had to get away from this pension, which is a European hotel. So they snuck the group out via covered wagon and horses.
Yeah.
They got them into some vans,
Mm-hmm.
and they ended up going over on a ferry to this island of Juist, which is island on the North Sea, north of Germany.
Yeah.
They were there, talking about everything, and she ended up posing nude.
Yeah, that's how you
the
get
magazine.
them Europeans, baby.
Oh yeah, that's normal
That's
stuff
normal.
for over there.
Right.
And Shanti B was in the background, just being herself, but she said that she was a bodyguard.
Quote unquote bodyguard.
Yes. Once they got that story out, then the press went wild. I mean, they found them. So the world press, after the story from Stern Magazine came out, they showed up at the island.
Yeah, Sheila was mentioning that it was their number one most sold magazine.
I think they had to reprint it.
Yeah, so it was... Basically, they got their money's worth.
They did. She was saying that the charges were nonsense.
Yes.
She's always going to deny that.
Always
and
deny
I don't think she's ever admitted, even in her interviews at this time, in today's date. They left, or she left, because she no longer wanted to take bread out of people's mouths to buy Rolls Royces.
Yeah.
Well, that's really not why she left.
No, but it's a nice shot. Because how many Rolls Royces did he have?
93 or something.
Yeah, and how much is a Rolls Royce?
A lot of money back even in those days.
Yeah, times 93. 1 times 93, you're looking at
millions and
millions of dollars just in cars. So if you need money, homeboy, sell a couple. And that $1 million watch you're wearing. But that's another story for another time. Okay, so once we talk about that, then of course it's back to Oregon again. The FBI calls Dan Durov, who is the city planner, to help him with the raid. So now the FBI is setting up to go in here. Now, of course, this is a very sensitive subject because during this time there's a lot of just tension brewing. I mean, this is just basically a powder keg just waiting to blow. So they got the search warrants, which were served to raid the ranch. So the FBI, state, and local police had to play a role. Now, the raid was the perfect, ample opportunity to get their hands on the Bhagwan. But the thing is, what they noticed is that they never told anybody. It was a very tight-knit situation in regards to that. So
right, because they could not tell anybody about this raid. It's top secret. So because when you're doing raids, if you get a tipster, then they can be prepared. They did not want them to have guns ready as they raided to be firing back. They were worried that this was a Jonestown situation ready to blow up, and these people were going to protect the Bhagwan at any cost. And they did have that firepower, Carl.
Yeah, we'll
We'll
talk
get to
about
that
it. We'll
in a
get to
little
that in a
bit.
second. But this was just the first one coming in. This wasn't the second one. So there's like
Oh,
a plan
that's
within
right.
the
There
plan.
was
There's
two
raids.
raids.
There's 2 raids.
Sorry
this is the
about
first
that,
one. That's
yes.
okay. That's fine. So what they did was that the community felt like they were being harassed because remember they already cooperated with them the first time.
Yes.
They cooperated with them the first time. They're saying that all we see is police officers playing cops and robbers, and he was also saying, quote, fishing with a grenade is not what I call a fishing exposition. What's the investigation all about? They had no evidence.
This is Swami
talking.
talking.
They had no evidence. So then the Bhagwan goes on the offense, and where he says that if they want to leave this place, they have to destroy it. With it, their mask of democracy, respect of individuality, the Constitution for freedom of expression, all that will go down the drain with Rajneeshpuram. Now, the Bhagwan says, finally says no more cooperation. It's finished. They can all go to hell.
So he's putting himself above the law.
Yes, he is.
And he's actually saying, that if he's destroyed, the whole country's going down with him.
Right. And the thing, too, is that now since he took away the religious aspect of it, now you're in, I think, my opinion, more of a cult-like situation.
Okay, yes.
Because it's like, okay, now they're quote-unquote no longer a religion, and now here we go.
He was putting that device together to test everybody, and he was even saying he felt that they were put there in Oregon to rid the United States of their dirty politics, their hypocrisy, that we needed all to be deprogrammed. So he was going to take over he wanted to take over the United States of America.
Yeah, starting with Oregon. So then Mr. Weaver pops up, and then there's the big quote there.
It says, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good.
That's right. Because remember during this time is that some of these people are looking at jail time for after the first raid where it was spreading around all those possible litigation against those people looking out for number one. And guess who the biggest nut they caught was who?
KD. And
KD.
he was the mayor.
KD was the former mayor. This is everything that Swami was talking about. He enjoyed the power that Sheila gave him. After Sheila left, he realized he could go to jail. So he's looking at a hard time. So he goes to the federal government for a deal and turns state evidence. Now, he gave more damning evidence than even they could imagine.
Right, because he was in all of those meetings with Sheila.
Yeah, and the thing is that Swami was mentioning to him that he offered him a lawyer, but of course he turned it down. But he didn't understand because why are you, Sheila bullied you. he was there when he saw it, called him a wimp and all that kind of stuff.
He physically assaulted, or
Yeah.
she physically assaulted.
Physically assaulted him on numerous times.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, he decides to state evidence, and then, of course, good Miss Sheila pops up into the screen, and what is her comments about KD?
KD was a coward. His actions disgusting that he would sell himself.
Yeah, so...
Well, no, he didn't sell himself. He sold her out.
Yeah, well, once again, it's her perspective, because it's her skin.
Of course.
It's not his. Well, he's saving his skin, because the reason why he's saving his skin is because she had him do all this stuff, or he is aware.
He was a puppet.
Total puppet. She took full advantage of him. So, here comes the indictment. So after KD turns, the indictments come for defrauding of the United States of false statements. Bhagwan and 7 others with 35 counts were brought up. And but the thing was, there was a trick to this. There's the trick. The trick was the arrest had to be simultaneously, because it had to go boom, boom, as he said. It had to go one after another. Because remember, Sheila, she's only 50 miles away from Switzerland. You can't extradite from Switzerland. So Sheila's right there. So if she all it takes is a phone call, they're done. It's done. It's over with. So they had to be very crafty with how they had to work this. So this is where they're not telling anybody about the indictments. They're not telling about what the investigation...
No, I think Swami wanted to know.
Well,
right?
no, he wanted to know. Of course he did. He was worried about the safety of the Bhagwan. Well, real quick before we go into that, is that they're worried about, the safety of not just the Bhagwan, but the location of the ranch. There's so many different aspects of...
It was in a box canyon.
It was in a box canyon, and it was just like, so much could go wrong so quick in such a short amount of time, because they were afraid of it, what's like you said it before, a Jonestown situation. But not only are we talking about people, we're talking about the firepower. Now, we just talked about that little plan, what they would do with all these weapons. Well, this is what they ended up accumulating. It's 17,400 rounds of 223 ammo, which goes along with the 20 Uzi rifles, 96 AK-47s, and 1 million rounds of AK-47 ammo. Now, all that just in that little spot is more than the entire state of Oregon's officials had. The whole state. They had more than the whole state. So if the whole state decided to show up and circle the place, they're still outgunned. So that raises a tons of questions. And not to mention the fact that the people were going to protect not only the Bhagwan, but the community at all costs. And they even show it. It's like, you come in, we're coming. They were...
And even the Bhagwan was for that. He
Yes.
was calling them to arms. You can come, but we're going to be ready for you.
But the thing is that also you have other people who are spooked at that, because it's easy to talk brave until you actually have to pick it up, and now you're dealing with it face to face. Of course, while this is happening, the National Guard is posting up all over the place. So, of course, now Swami, he's obviously the lawyer. He's trying to negotiate a voluntary surrender to avoid all the bloodshed. But, of course, Turner, he wouldn't confirm that there was an indictment at all. Like I said, they're keeping it shut, and they won't discuss a involuntary surrender. So it wasn't even on the table. He didn't even want to give him that opportunity to even think that there's something going on. So that's just all part of the surprise.
Yeah, because if he was going to negotiate a voluntary surrender, they knew, well, that would tip off the Bhagwan. I need to get going.
Exactly. So first of all, they didn't trust the Bhagwan, because obviously the past has pretty much set up everything.
And they knew that in reality, Swami didn't have any control.
Yeah.
Nobody had a control over
the
him.
Bhagwan. No, Sheila was the only possible one that maybe
And
even.
she's gone.
And she's gone. So now they're just like, and of course, Swami said that they know that there was an assault forthcoming.
So Mr. Bowerman,
yeah, Mr.
he's
Bowerman.
back, the guy with the hat.
Mr. Hat.
Okay.
Yep.
He's out doing his ranching with the cows. He's out on his horses, and he's been asked to keep his eyes and ears open for
Yes.
anything unusual that's going on out there.
Because they're next door neighbors.
Yes. So he sees 2 Learjets land. So he calls his friend Tom, who asked him about this, and he told him that they landed, and about 45 minutes later, they took off. And he he didn't know for sure, but he suspected that the Bhagwan was on those jets. Or one jet, obviously. He's on a jet.
Yeah, there's 2 jets. There was 2 jets that took off.
Of course. So one had the Bhagwan, and I don't know who
Maybe
what was in the other.
decoy.
Or it could have been his stuff.
Yeah, probably. All the bars of gold.
Yeah, so Swami is informed by Isabel. We don't know who that is, but it doesn't matter. that the Bhagwan just left the ranch, and he's...
Do you want me to tell what he said?
Wait a minute. He says, so Swami, he's like, what are you talking? She goes, what's going on? What's going on? And he says, I don't know what you're talking about. Well, the Bhagwan just left, and what did he say?
He went to the airstrip, and he just left, and he goes, "Oh shit, that's not a good idea." And then Turner pops in, and what does he say?
He says, "I'm not surprised, but I saw an opportunity."
And the next thing you know, pops up, Wild Wild Country.
Yeah, the credits.
The credits roll. So, alrighty.
So it's setting the stage for the next part.
For the next final, the episode 6.
That's right. So we've got a lot of things, but they did avoid that raid, the second raid. They avoided that, and they even mentioned, I think this one man, the Attorney General, mentioned that he was afraid that they did put a lot of pressure on that situation, and it was a danger.
Yeah, it was.
It was a dangerous thing that they did. You would think that they would try a different method. And I think in these days, from that which was not implemented,
right,
there was other things that later on down the road in
Texas.
Yes, in Texas. Yeah, that was another situation that was pitted. But there's also another one in Montana, Ruby Ridge. But that's not for today's discussion. No. But it's the same kind of pattern that that they get into this situation.
Well, it's trying to expect the unexpected, but you don't know what to expect, so you have to be prepared for all. Mm-hmm. So, alrighty, guys. Okay, well, that's it. That's episode 5. Woo! What a ride so far. Guys, take care of yourself. Looking forward to episode 6. And I will say good night, Holly.
Good night.